The plains of Vanter IV lay quiet, the kind of quiet that made the air feel heavy. Smoke floated across the ruined land like the last breath of a dying world. Buildings that once held laughter were now broken skeletons of metal and stone. The sun hung low in the sky, turning the battlefield a deep orange, as if even the heavens were mourning. And in the center of this wide, empty space stood one man, Sergeant Elias Ward. He wasn't the strongest soldier in the human armies. He wasn't the most decorated, or the loudest, or the bravest by nature. But he was the last one left. Every other soldier had either fallen earlier in the day, or had stayed back to help with the evacuation. Elias had volunteered to remain outside, to hold the front alone. He didn't say this with pride. He said it because he couldn't imagine letting someone else stand here in his place. He tightened the straps of his cracked armor, feeling every bruise and ache beneath it. Some parts of the armor were burned away, revealing patches of his uniform. A long cut ran across his ribs, still bleeding through a rough bandage. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He had been fighting since dawn. But even with all the pain weighing down on his body, Elias lifted his head and stared toward the horizon. There, like a dark metallic ocean, marched the army of the alien Empress. They moved without sound, without hesitation, without mercy. Thousands of silver-skinned warriors in shining armor advanced in perfect lines. Their glowing blades cut through the fading sunlight. Behind them rolled massive war machines with humming cores and cannons ready to fire. Swarms of drones circled overhead like metal insects, searching for something to tear apart, and they were all coming for him. Elias took a slow breath in. The air stung his lungs. For a moment, he closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his eyelids, he saw the faces of the people he was fighting for, children being rushed into shelters, families clinging to each other, engineers working desperately to launch the last evacuation shuttle. He thought of the radio call he had received just minutes ago. "We're almost done, Sergeant. Hold the line for a little longer. Just a little longer." He remembered the voice cracking, as if the person speaking didn't fully believe that one man could stand against an entire army, but Elias believed. Or at least he decided he had to. The ground trembled as something descended from the sky. A cold wind swept across the battlefield, chilling Elias's skin even through the heat of the ruined land. When he opened his eyes again, he saw her, the alien Empress herself. She arrived on a floating throne made of obsidian-like metal, shaped with sharp edges that looked impossible to touch without bleeding. The throne hovered silently above the ground, drifting forward like a ghost. The Empress was tall, elegant, and terrifying. Her skin glowed faintly, her eyes shone like frozen stars, and her long silver hair moved as if underwater. She looked down at Elias not with anger, but with the calm curiosity of someone observing a strange creature. When she spoke, her voice did not echo, yet somehow it reached every corner of the plains. "So this is the resistance?" she asked. "One human soldier." Elias swallowed. His throat felt dry. But he didn't look away. He forced his voice to remain steady. "One is enough." The Empress tilted her head slightly. A soft laugh escaped her, a sound sharp like breaking glass. "You cannot win. My army is endless." Elias adjusted his grip on his rifle. His fingers were scratched, his knuckles bleeding. But he held the weapon with purpose, as if it weighed nothing at all. "I don't need to win," he said quietly. "I just need to buy time." Something in the Empress's expression shifted. The amusement faded. She leaned back in her throne, studying him closely, as though trying to understand the stubbornness burning behind his tired eyes. "You stand alone," she said. "Does that not frighten you?" Elias looked back at the ruins behind him, his home, his people, his duty. Then he looked again at the Empress and her endless army. "I've been frightened before," he answered. "But today, I just can't afford to be." The wind carried the scent of smoke and ash. The sky darkened a little more. The alien army tightened their formation, preparing for the strike that would surely come. Elias breathed out slowly and planted his feet firmly on the ground. This was where he would make his stand. This was where history would remember him. This was where humanity's last line refused to break. He whispered to himself, almost like a prayer, "Just a few more minutes. That's all they need." And then he lifted his rifle toward the incoming army. The air grew colder as the alien Empress floated closer on her dark throne. The hum of her machine throne vibrated through the cracked earth, sending tiny ripples of dust drifting around Elias's boots. Even though the battlefield stretched wide and empty, Elias felt as if the entire world had shrunk into the small space between the Empress and him. It was a strange feeling being so alone, yet feeling so heavily watched by thousands of silent enemy eyes. The Empress studied him the way a scientist might study a rare creature caught in a trap. Her expression was unreadable, neither angry nor pleased. Her glowing eyes reflected the burning ruins behind Elias like mirrors made of ice. In that moment, Elias realized something. She wasn't here because she feared him. She was here because she was curious. Human, she said softly, her voice flowing like cold wind. You stand before a force that has crushed a dozen worlds. Why do you not kneel? Elias felt his hands tighten around his rifle. He could feel his heartbeat pounding in his fingertips. He had expected her to mock him, to threaten him, to scream commands to destroy him. But instead, she spoke like a queen addressing a child who didn't understand the rules of her world. He lifted his chin. I don't kneel to tyrants. The Empress blinked slowly, as if tasting the meaning of his words. Tyrant, she repeated. Is that what you believe I am? You command an army built to wipe out everything that doesn't obey you, Elias said. If that's not a tyrant, then what is? For a moment, the Empress said nothing. Her throne lowered slightly, bringing her closer to Elias's eye level. She watched him with sharp, searching eyes that seemed to dig into his very soul. You are interesting, she said at last. Most humans tremble. They beg. They cling to life with desperation. Her gaze hardened. But you offer defiance. Elias didn't answer. He didn't trust his voice to remain steady if he spoke again. His mind raced through memories, faces of comrades who had fallen hours earlier, voices of children crying as the alarms rang, the final salute of his captain before the bunker doors shut. All those moments had led to this point. The Empress gestured loosely with her hand, and the army behind her shifted, thousands of soldiers snapping into a new formation. An enormous wave preparing to crash. You stand here alone, she said. One soldier against my entire force. Do you truly believe you can stop us? Elias swallowed. His throat felt tight. No, he said honestly. But I can slow you down. A flicker of something surprise passed across the Empress's face. Her throne drifted in a slow circle around him as she observed him from every angle, like a predator circling prey it couldn't quite understand. What drives such determination? She asked. Is it pride, duty, or is it simply foolishness? Elias closed his eyes for half a second. He thought of his sister boarding the evacuation ship, tears in her eyes. He thought of the old mechanic who had patted his back and whispered, We're counting on you, son. He thought of the little girl who had asked him, earlier that day, if the soldiers were strong enough to protect everyone. When he opened his eyes again, there was no hesitation in them. It's love, he said quietly. The Empress froze. Love? She repeated, tasting the word as if it were unfamiliar. You risk everything. For something so fragile? It's fragile, Elias agreed, but it's real. More real than fear. More real than your army. For the first time, the Empress's expression cracked. Not anger, confusion. As if she was looking at something she had never seen before. You humans, she whispered, are strange creatures. The soldiers behind her shifted again. Their weapons hummed with growing energy. The Empress raised her hand, not to command the attack, but to silence them. She turned her gaze back to Elias. Her eyes colder than before, but also sharper. Filled with a new intensity. You are brave, she said. But bravery is meaningless when facing inevitability. Elias steadied his stance. Maybe, but I'm not here to win. I'm here to make sure someone remembers this day. The Empress tilted her head. And why would I remember you? He met her eyes with unwavering determination. Because I am the last wall between you and the people I swore to protect. Something stirred behind the Empress. The army readied itself, the sky filled with the hum of drones, the earth vibrating with tension. The calm before the storm. She slowly raised her arm. Then come, human, she said. Show me why you stand alone. Her hand dropped. The first wave of her army surged forward, and Elias Ward stepped forward to meet it. The moment the Empress's hand fell, the battlefield awakened like a sleeping beast bursting into life. The air cracked with sharp metallic sounds as the first wave of drones shot forward. Hundreds of them, glowing blue and red, darted across the sky like angry sparks. Their engines screamed, their weapons charged, and their shadows scattered across the ground like swarming insects. Elias did not run. He planted his feet, raised his rifle, and took aim. The first drone fired a bolt of plasma. A flash of light. A roar. The ground beside Elias exploded into smoke and heat. The blast knocked him back a step, but he gritted his teeth and fired. His bullet hit the drone dead center. It burst apart in a shower of sparks. Another swooped down from behind. Elias spun, firing again. The drone's wing clipped his shoulder armor, ripping the metal open like paper. Pain shot through him, sharp and burning, but Elias forced himself to ignore it. He remembered something his captain once told him. In a battle this big, you don't fight the whole war at once. You fight one target at a time. So Elias fought one target at a time, 3 drones. Then 5, 10. More. He kept moving, rolling behind a cracked wall, sliding across broken stone, ducking under falling debris. His boots kicked up dust. His breath came in short bursts, but his hands were steady. Every shot he fired found something to destroy. The drones kept coming. Explosions pounded the ground, around him like angry fists. The air filled with bright streaks of energy, each one deadly enough to end his fight instantly. But Elias pushed through, his muscles burning, his ears ringing from the constant noise. One drone zipped dangerously close, its blade arm extended. Elias ducked and felt the blade slice past his helmet, shaving a line through the metal. He grabbed the drone by its broken wing, slammed it against the ground, and crushed it with his boot. For a moment, he had no time to breathe before he felt the earth shake beneath him. A heavy walker approached. It was massive, towering over the battlefield like a metal giant. Thick legs stomped across the ground, shaking the soil. A huge cannon on its back hummed with growing energy. Its glowing eyes locked onto Elias. He knew if it fired, there would be nothing left of him. The walker's cannon glowed brighter. Brighter. Elias sprinted. He ran faster than he ever had before. The ground shook with every step of the walker behind him. Rocks fell around him, drones screamed above him. He spotted a fallen steel beam lying at an angle, forming a broken ramp against a destroyed wall. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He just jumped. Boots hitting the beam. Elias ran up, leapt off the edge, and soared through the smoky air. For a heartbeat, everything slowed. He saw the walker below him, its armor glowing with energy, the cannon about to fire. Elias landed hard on its back. The metal burned his palms. The heat scorched through his gloves. But he crawled forward, ripping at the armor, searching for the weak spot. His fingers found a loose panel. He grabbed it, pulled with every bit of strength he had left, and tore it open. Blue sparks exploded in his face. The walker roared. Stumbling, Elias pulled a grenade from his belt, yanked the pin, and shoved it inside the exposed wiring. "Enjoy this," he muttered through clenched teeth. He pushed himself off the walker, throwing his body to the ground just as boom, the walker erupted in a tower of fire and smoke. Its legs twisted, its metal frame crumpled, and the entire machine collapsed with a ground-shaking crash. Elias hit the ground hard. Pain exploded through his ribs. He groaned and forced himself to sit up, clutching his side. His armor was cracked in several places, blood seeping from under it. He felt dizzy, his breath shallow, but he was alive. He glanced toward the bunker in the distance. If the evacuation wasn't complete yet, they needed more time. He couldn't stop. Not now. He wiped the blood from his mouth and stood again, even though his legs trembled beneath him. The wind carried fresh dust across the ruined field. Then he saw it. The Empress's army was still marching. More soldiers, more machines, more drones. The destruction he had caused was impressive. But to her army, it was just a scratch. Still, Elias didn't back away. He lifted his rifle again. His voice shaking but firm, he whispered, "1 second at a time. 1 breath at a time. 1 more fight." And he charged forward again, into the storm of metal and fire. The ground beneath Elias trembled as the next wave of alien warriors approached. Unlike the drones, these were tall, silver-armored fighters with glowing blades and shields that shimmered with strange energy. They marched in perfect formation, each step hitting the earth at the same time, sounding like one enormous heartbeat. Elias felt that sound inside his bones. His breath was shaky now. His arms were heavy. His cuts burned with every movement. The fight against the drones had already drained him close to empty, and the walker explosion had left his body aching in every corner. But he still stood, legs trembling, rifle raised, refusing to fall. He whispered to himself, "I can still do this. I have to." The alien warriors lifted their glowing blades and broke into a sprint fast, far faster than humans. The world blurred into streaks of light and movement. Elias fired, each shot echoing across the battlefield. His bullets hit a few warriors, knocking them down, but more filled their place instantly. They closed around him in a tight, Circle. One warrior swung his blade at Elias's head. Elias ducked just in time and fired point blank, dropping the fighter. Another lunged at him with a double-bladed weapon. Elias blocked with the broken edge of his rifle, sparks flying, then kicked the warrior back, but they just kept coming. The circle tightened. Blades flashed from every direction. Elias backed up until his boots hit a cracked stone, and he could move no farther. A blade slashed across his arm. He cried out as warm blood ran down his sleeve. Another hit him across the ribs where his armor was already damaged, forcing him to his knees. Pain exploded inside him, sharp, deep, overwhelming, for a moment. Elias couldn't breathe. The world spun. His legs buckled. He dropped to one knee. Bracing himself with shaking hands, the warriors surrounded him. Their glowing blades aimed at his throat. He could see his own reflection in their metal masks bloodied. Exhausted, barely standing, his chest rose and fell in painful. Broken gasps. Is this it? Is this how I end? The questions slid into his mind like whispers. His vision started to blur at the edges. His fingers went numb. His heart felt like a hammer hitting too fast, too hard, for the first time since the battle began. Elias truly felt the weight of fear. A blade pressed gently against his throat. Could feel its heat. He almost let go. Almost allowed himself to collapse. And let the darkness take him. Almost. Then a different sound reached him, not the warriors. Footsteps, not the hum of alien machines, a memory. Voice. Soft, warm, human. His sister's voice. Come home after this. Eli, promise. He felt the ghost of her small arms hugging him before she left. He remembered her trembling voice, trying not to cry. He remembered the promise he gave her, the promise he still hadn't broken. Another memory flashed. The little girl who had asked, "Will you protect us?" Her hopeful eyes, trusting him completely. Another, the old engineer clutching his shoulder, whispering, "We're counting on you, son." Those voices came back to him like a spark inside the darkness, and that spark became fire. Elias inhaled, sharp and painful, but full of life. He clenched his fists. He looked up at the alien warriors through blood-blurred eyes. "This line," he whispered, "doesn't break." With a sudden burst of desperate strength, Elias twisted sideways, knocking the blade away from his throat. He grabbed his sidearm and fired wildly, forcing the warriors backward. He screamed a raw, exhausted, furious sound as he fought through the pain. One blade cut across his shoulder. Another slashed down his back, but he kept fighting. Stumbling, bleeding, refusing to fall, he tackled one warrior to the ground and slammed his fist into its mask until it shattered. He fired at another until his gun clicked empty. He grabbed a fallen warrior's blade and swung it. With everything he had left, he carved out just enough space to stand fully again. His vision flickered. But he stayed up. Blood dripped down his chin. His lungs burned with every breath. Still, he stood. The warriors backed up, surprised by the sudden fury of a single dying soldier. Elias wiped the blood from his mouth, spit to the ground, and lifted the glowing alien blade. He could barely keep his balance, but his eyes were steady. "I am not done," he growled. Behind him, far in the distance, the last evacuation sirens were still blaring. The colonists were still boarding, still fleeing, still depending on him. And Elias, ward broken, bleeding, outnumbered 1,000 to 1, refused to let them down. He took one step forward. Then another, a soldier made of pain and pure will. The warriors tightened their formation again. Elias tightened his grip on the blade. The next wave was coming, and he was ready to face it. Smoke floated in the air like tired ghosts as Elias stood, surrounded by fallen warriors. The battlefield was quieter, now not peaceful, but heavy, tense, holding its breath. Elias' own breathing echoed louder than the distant rumble of machines. Each breath felt like swallowing fire. His back throbbed with fresh cuts, his legs shook beneath him, and the glowing alien blade in his hand dripped with strange blue blood. He was exhausted beyond anything he had ever known. His vision flickered like a broken screen, fading in and out, but somehow, he was still standing. The alien warriors pulled back into a wide ring, not attacking yet. They watched him with cautious, almost respectful silence. Elias didn't know if they were waiting for orders or simply stunned that one human had survived this long. A cold wind drifted across the battlefield. The smoke thinned. And then the Empress appeared again. Her throne descended slowly from the sky, glowing with cold silver light. She floated downward, her expression unreadable. her eyes fixed on Elias like a queen studying a rare animal refusing to die. When her throne touched the ground, the alien soldiers dropped to one knee in perfect unison. Their loyalty was absolute, every motion controlled, flawless, unshaken. Elias was nothing like them, bleeding, shaking, covered in dirt and ash. A broken soldier surrounded by perfection. Yet the Empress looked only at him. She lifted her hand, and the army froze completely. "You are still alive," she said softly. "Human, how is this possible?" Elias wiped blood from his mouth with the back of his hand and forced himself to straighten. The blade in his hand trembled, but he held it anyway. "I didn't ask for your permission," he answered. A faint spark lit in the Empress's cold eyes, not anger, but something closer to fascination. "You surprise me," she said. "Even now, with your body failing, you refuse to surrender." Elias took in a painful breath. He could feel every wound screaming. His heart pounded against broken ribs. "I refuse," he said, "because they need time. And I'm giving it to them." The Empress stepped closer, her silver hair flowing behind her like floating light. "Your people run," she said. "They abandon their world. They flee into the stars like frightened prey. Why fight for those who run from battle?" "Because they're not soldiers," Elias said. "They're families, children, elders, people who want to live." The Empress tilted her head, confused by the softness in his tone. "So you risk your life," she said slowly. "Not for glory, not for victory, but for them? For the weak?" "That's what strength is," Elias replied. "Protecting those who can't fight." For the first time, the Empress's face changed. A small crease appeared between her brows, uncertainty, maybe even doubt. She circled him slowly, her throne gliding with smooth silence. The air around her felt colder, heavier, as if she carried a piece of deep space within her. "You fought my drones," she said. "You destroyed my walker. You survived my warriors. And now you stand before me with nothing left but stubborn will." Her eyes narrowed. "Why do you continue? You must know you cannot win." Elias swallowed, tasting blood again. "I know," he whispered. "But winning isn't my job. My job is to hold you here." He looked toward the distant evacuation point. Faintly, he could hear the last shuttle engines warming. Just a few more minutes. Just a little more time. The Empress followed his gaze. Her expression softened with strange understanding. Then, surprisingly, she extended her hand toward him. "Bow to me." "Elias Ward," she said quietly. "Kneel and live. I honor warriors who fight with heart. I do not need to kill you. Serve me. And live." Elias stared at her, stunned. A part of him felt the temptation to rest, to end the pain, to finally stop fighting. But then he saw the faces. Again his sister, the children, the elders, everyone counting on him. He met the Empress's eyes with a tired but fierce stare. "No," he said. "I don't kneel." The Empress's hand slowly curled into a fist, not with rage, but disappointment. "You choose death?" she asked. "I choose them." Silence settled over the battlefield like a closing curtain. The Empress straightened on her throne. Her voice echoed like distant thunder. "Then, your story ends here." Elias tightened his grip on the blade, his breath trembling. "Maybe," he whispered. "But not yet." The Empress raised her arm. Her army lifted their weapons, and the final wave prepared to strike. The air crackled with tension as the Empress lifted her arm. Every alien soldier, every drone, every machine responded instantly like one giant creature obeying its queen. Weapons glowed. The ground shook. The sky darkened beneath the shadows of rising machines. Elias stood alone in the center of the battlefield, gripping the glowing alien blade with shaking hands. His breaths came fast and shallow, each one filled with pain. Blood ran down his arms, his ribs screamed with every movement, and his legs felt like they could collapse at any second. But he stayed standing. He stared straight at the Empress, not with hatred, not with fear, but with that same stubborn determination that had brought him this far. The Empress lowered her hand. The army surged forward. Drones screamed through the sky. Warriors charged with glowing blades. Heavy machines stomped across the cracked earth, firing blasts of energy that lit up the field with violent flashes of blue. And Elias ran toward them. Even he didn't fully understand how his legs kept moving. They felt like they belonged to someone else, someone stronger, someone who refused to die. His heart thundered in his ears, drowning out the noise of battle. He could barely see through the smoke and blood in his eyes, but something pushed him forward. Not pride. Not fear. Not even survival. It was purpose. He swung the alien blade with all the strength he had left. The first warrior to reach him lunged, but Elias moved faster. His blade cut through the warrior's chest in a burst of sparks. Another warrior attacked from the left. Elias blocked, the impact sending shockwaves up his arm, then kicked the attacker back. Drones swooped low, firing bright streaks of plasma. Elias dove behind a broken piece of metal, the heat burning his back as the blast struck the ground. He rolled, grabbed his fallen sidearm, and fired 3 shots in quick bursts. The drones exploded in the air like fireworks. A heavy machine fired at him. Elias barely managed to throw himself aside. The blast hit the ground where he had stood a moment before, sending a wave of heat that seared his skin. He screamed but forced himself to rise again. He wasn't fighting like a trained soldier anymore. He was fighting like a storm wild. Desperate, unstoppable. Blood dripped into his eyes, his hand gripping. The blade was numb. His breaths felt like knives in his lungs, but he kept going. He remembered his sister's smile. He remembered the little girl who asked if the soldiers were strong. He remembered the old engineer who said, "We're counting on you." Those memories wrapped around him like invisible armor. A warrior grabbed him from behind, pulling him down. Elias slammed his elbow back, feeling something crack. He twisted, grabbed the warrior's blade, and stabbed upward. The warrior fell. Elias stumbled, almost collapsing, but caught himself with shaking arms. Another warrior charged. Elias met him head-on. Their blades clashed, sparks flying. Elias felt his strength slipping, his arms weakening. The warrior pushed harder, forcing Elias to his knees. His knees hit the ground. Pain shot through his entire body. The warrior roared and raised his blade for the killing strike. But Elias wasn't done. With the last burst of strength he could find, he pushed upward, screaming from the effort. He twisted his blade and struck the warrior across the helmet. The warrior fell backward, and Elias fell with him, gasping, trembling, barely conscious. He lay on the ground for a moment, staring up at the dark sky. He knew he was reaching his limit. His body was failing. Every breath took more strength than he had left. But then he heard something. A distant rumble. Faint, growing, powerful. Elias forced himself to look up. The last evacuation shuttle, the final ship carrying the refugees, was rising into the sky. They were leaving. They were safe. Had bought them enough time. A broken, tired smile formed on Elias's face. "I did it," he whispered. The Empress watched him from her throne. Her eyes, glowing and cold, followed the rising shuttle. Then she looked back at Elias, bleeding, kneeling, but smiling. She lifted her hand slowly. Her army stopped. Not one alien moved. Elias tried to stand, but his legs gave out. He dropped to one knee, the alien blade slipping from his hand. His vision dimmed around the edges, the world spinning. But even as the darkness crept in, even as his strength faded, he stayed kneeling with dignity, with pride. He had kept his promise. He had held the line. He had defended every life behind him. And in that moment, on that silent, broken battlefield, Elias Ward became more than a soldier. He became a legend.